Hi again, everybody. This video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Dear Ollie, first off, let me thank you for the outstanding videos you have produced. Many have helped me immensely in the understanding of narcissism, my family, and my life's journeys. Where do I begin? It's complex and ongoing. The story starts during World War II and my mother's escapade in escape and deception. My narcissistic mother had her first childhood almost out of wedlock. Had her first child almost out of wedlock. I say almost and will explain shortly. She became pregnant at 19 years of age and left her home state of Louisiana to start a new life in California, away from the shame she brought on her family and friends, far away to California where my aunt was living. It was a different time and era where unwed mothers were ruthlessly shamed and basically made outcasts. In my conversations with my aunt that my mother came to live with, it was revealed that my mother was 5 months pregnant and traveling by bus to her destination when a handsome young soldier on leave boarded the bus and sat next to her. During the long trip, my mother and her new friend fell instantly in love and got married in New Mexico on their way to California. It was a courtship of 1 to 2 days, then marriage, so she escaped the dread of having a child out of wedlock. My mother apparently did not show, and her pregnancy was kept secret from her new husband, my dad. There were just a few weeks for the newlyweds to be together in California before my dad was shipped off to Italy to serve his country during the war. Well, my mother gave birth to a full-term baby boy short of 4 months after her marriage to my father. My father was furloughed to visit his wife and new child, and I will call my brother the new baby, Dan. Needless to say, my dad was in shock over the fact that he had become a father in just under 4 months after meeting my mother. When my dad arrived home from Italy, he demanded an explanation, and my mother stated she had been raped while living in Louisiana and did not realize she was pregnant. There was a huge argument, and my dad apparently wanted an annulment. Eventually, my mother prevailed and convinced my father to stay with her. So he did. My mother revealed to her 7 children that followed that Dan was the golden child. That Dan, the golden child, is our half-brother because this was supposed to be kept a secret, hidden from us all. I was the third-born child, the first girl, and also the golden child for a while. The rest of my siblings were all scapegoated, and my autistic brother, became a forgotten child. My brother Bill, who is 1 year older than me, got the worst of it for a long time. I remember one Christmas that everyone received many wonderful gifts, and my brother Bill had only one small gift under the tree. Bill was berated, called names, beaten, neglected, and ignored most of the time. He was even made to stand during meals because my parents would not buy him a chair or a stool to sit on. By this time, my father had become very violent in his correction and punishment of all of us, who were beaten with limbs from a tree, belts, or were made to stand in the corner for hours. Bill always got the worst of it and had to be rescued by my mother numerous times as he was being thrown to the floor and beaten by my dad. Violence, fear, and screaming were the norm all the way through my childhood. My mother yelled and screamed at us every day. There was no relationship of bonding or closeness with my mother. I did have a sort of close relationship with my dad during my teen years and as an adult. My mother is a liar and a huge gossip. She has triangulated all of her children to the point that some do not speak or have any kind of relationship at all. I could never figure out why we were not close as a family like many of my friends. Now I know. Narcissism is evil to the core. Getting back to Dan, he found out that he was not my father's firstborn by chance. Being a curious 9-year-old kid, Dan ran across legal documents in a desk drawer that revealed the true date of my parents' marriage. Dan knew that my parents' wedding anniversary was supposed to be in June 1943. But when he found their marriage certificate in the desk drawer, it stated the marriage took place on June 21st, 1944, the same year Dan was born, on the 1st of October. My brother said he was very bewildered and shocked at the lie we had been told. He had kept the secret until he was 17, and that is when he told me the truth about our parents. I was 13 when I was told. The reason Dan told me is because he had a huge fight with my mother over his relationship with his high school sweetheart, and constantly lost his standing as the golden child, and consequently lost his standing as the golden child. My mother literally hated Dan's girlfriend, Mary. Mary was and is a very classy, smart, and sweet woman who took up too much of Dan's time. Dan was a full-time babysitter for us, all of his younger siblings, since the time he was about 9 or 10 years old. He even became the babysitter for my sister when she was a newborn, and he was only 10 years old. He was our caregiver while our parents worked, left alone to care for his younger siblings. There were 5 of us at the time, and 3 more to come later. My narcissistic mother worked in a factory and left her young children in the care of a child. The narcissist was losing her free babysitter to another female, and she hated it. So at that point, we were either left alone or in the care of a neighbor. We kind of raised ourselves. My mother said she did the best she could with us as we were growing up, and she had to have a job because my dad did not make enough to support us. Well, here's an idea, and I'm sure you love all your brothers and sisters, but I have a very difficult time having empathy for somebody who doesn't have money and pumps out 8 fucking children. That is child abuse, having children you can't pay for, you can't raise, or you can't take care of. And I'll tell you why people do it, or why women do it, because they get addicted on the attention of childbirth and pregnancy. I have a very hard time pitying people who actively make a decision to pump out 8 kids. And that's not to say anything terrible bad about your brothers and sisters, because it's not any of their faults. It is actually unfair that your parents did that to them. She would always say, I did my best and loved all my children. I really believe she just wanted to stay away from the chaos involved at home with 8 children to care for. Exactly. She was addicted to having the children, not raising them. Okay? If she didn't want the chaos of 8 kids, don't have 8 fucking kids. Dan married his sweetheart, Mary, and my mother protested vigorously. Narcissistic mother did not attend the bridal shower, but she could not gracefully avoid the wedding. She gave the newlyweds 6 months to a year before she said they would split. That was 53 years ago. They have 4 wonderful sons, and 3 of them whom they put through college, and 2 sons ended up with a master's degrees. I have been married 3 times. All 3 are narcissists. I'm an empath and wanted to please my husbands and make their life happy. So all 3 took advantage of my willingness to please. The last man I married turned out to have oppositional defiant disorder, or ODD, in addition to being a narcissist. I am grateful every day that I am 2,000 miles away from him. He tried and almost succeeded to turn my children against me. Every waking moment was torture. I was criticized, chastised, put down, made the butt of the joke constantly, and physically abused. There was no respect for anything I liked or believed. My children started to get the message that I was to be put down and criticized, which made it very hard to parent them. I was able to divorce them and get sole custody of the kids. Fortunately, I was able to borrow money from my mother to make the move to the West Coast. For a short time, I had no choice but to live with her, and it was hell on earth. I was finally able to get a job and move to my own place with my kids. I do live in the same town as my mother, and she has dealt some horrible misery to me and my 2 children. I will give just one example. On Thanksgiving, my son, his wife, and 2 children flew down from Alaska to spend time with my daughter and I and have Thanksgiving with the family. We traditionally have the holiday dinner at my mother's house, and my sisters, brothers, and the kids all gather for the holiday meal. The night before Thanksgiving Day, my mother called to inform me that the kids and I should not come for Thanksgiving and to have dinner at my own house. Everyone was bewildered and upset. I had not prepared to have dinner at my house, but managed to pull it off with what I had on hand by ordering a pre-cooked turkey. Let me tell you about my youngest brother, Scott. Scott has autism and has been brutalized by both of my parents, especially my mother. My mother should have stayed home with my brother to give him the help, support, and attention he needed as a child. Instead, she worked and left Scott with the rest of us. As a result of us not being socialized, Scott became withdrawn and acted out when he was frustrated. Scott was started in public school for special need children, but was kicked out when he sawed the legs off the teacher's desk during recess. Well, wait a minute. Whose fault is that? Why would they kick him out for sawing the teacher? If he's autistic and he has problems, that's why he's there. It's a special school. Isn't that teacher's fault for leaving him unsupervised? And how the hell did he get a saw to begin with? Holy shit. My mother never sent him back to school after that, and he just remained at home with one of my parents. Eventually, my mother did take the night shift so she could be there with Scott till my dad got home. When Scott turned 9, he was sent to a mental institution for the insane and retarded. What? Wait a minute. So if they're putting him in the insane and retarded, but they're leaving him unsupervised with a saw to saw off legs. I mean, come on, man. Your mother didn't want to be bothered. She didn't want to be bothered. Yes, he was ripped away from his family and sent to an institution just because he was autistic, and my mother had to work. He was all alone and scared to death. He spent 3 miserable years there while he was abused and tortured by the staff. At one point, he had to be hospitalized because he was repeatedly kicked in the groin and had several injuries, but remained in that institution. Finally, Pacific State Hospital, where he was sent, closed down and all the patients were transferred home or to group homes. My brother got to come home, but not for long. When Scott was 12, he was sent to juvenile hall until he was 18. Then on the group homes where he received no real help. He had really done nothing wrong. He just needed guidance and a mother. He did act out in frustration when he was abused by my younger sisters and would throw things at them when they called him a retard. Nobody was home to help take care of him, so he was shipped off to scary places without family or even a friend. My brother Scott is now 62 years old and has a very intense emotional relationship with my mother and does all her bidding. A real mindfuck. She always treated him very poorly, but she is who he clings to because he doesn't want to be sent away. He's terrified of her. He's been beaten into submission. It's like a slave. Don't kick me out. She has discouraged him from participating in normal life activities, and he has practically no interests except collecting seashell, coins, and marbles. Scott is now living on his own. I am now his legal guardian and have defied my mother to introduce Scott to an iPad, cell phone, computer, and printer. He is learning how to navigate on all his electronics and enjoys them very much. He has personal supervision from the state and has learned to do basic cooking, house cleaning, shopping, movie theater, restaurants, and outings to visit places of interest. These things have been denied to him for so long because my mother always said he was not capable. Something I had never figured out is that my brother has never called my mother mom, mommy, or mother. He always called her by her first name. My mother is 93 years old and still does the same horrible thing she has always done. The list of crazy, hurtful shit goes on, and it would fill a book. I have wanted to go no contact with my mother for a long time, but out of respect, never felt it was the right thing to do. After watching many of your videos and the videos of some of the other YouTubers, I know going no contact is the right decision and the only solution to a happy, healthy life. My mother keeps trying to hoover me back into her craziness. After even sending Bill, her new flying monkey, to glean information. I am much wiser now and do not take the bait. Thank you again, Ollie. You are very insightful, informative, and such a tremendous help in my recovery and the recovery of countless others. I can spot narcissists a mile away and avoid them like the plague. I'm curious of a few things here. I'm curious how much guilt you're probably carrying around yourself. You know, I'm wondering if you ever, because you said, even though, you know, Bill got the worst of it, you were all beaten and how you were treated. You said you got close with your father in your teen years and later in your adult life. I'm wondering if you ever talked to him about his behavior and called him on it and found out why, or what the hell. There might be some guilt there, you know. I'm assuming he's passed, he didn't say, but if your mother's 93, I mean, the odds that they're both alive, I mean, it could be, but now, as far as your mother goes, your mother had 8 kids. Why? Because she liked the attention of being pregnant. Somehow your mother made a connection that being pregnant got her positive things. Because the first time she got pregnant, she got a husband. I think somewhere in her messed up mind, she made a correlation. So I think she kind of liked the thrill of being pregnant. A lot of narcissistic women do. They love the attention and the gifts and all the special treatment they get from being pregnant. They can't stop being pregnant. But then they spend 0 time with their kids. And then play the victim of, oh my God, I have 8 kids, I can't, my life, and this, well, who told you to have 8 fucking kids? I'm wondering though, at 93 years old and going no contact, you obviously have the right to go no contact. Your mother deserves to be gone no contact with. I'm worried about your brother Scott. I mean, because he seems very, very hurt. Obviously, he's hurt. He's confused. He's been browbeaten by your mother into submission. If going no contact is obviously going to benefit you, is it going to benefit your brother Scott? If the answer is yes, you definitely got to do it. Now, for whatever reason, the answer is no, that she has. But if you have legal authority over him, and you're his legal guardian, then she should have no effect over him. He doesn't call her mom. He doesn't even realize, doesn't even recognize her as such. You ever tried to talk to Scott about his past? I mean, I don't know. Really talk to him and let him know, like, you know, I know stuff in your past and I'm sorry it happened, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'm sure you have, and if you haven't, it might be because of your own abuse and you're trying to figure this out. Do you ask Scott, does he ever want to see her again? What does he want? Because I bet he has an idea. Because his autism seems to have been caused by your mother. To me, a lot of times, autism is a severe self-defense mechanism to trauma, where you just go into yourself, become that introvert. You lock into your own head as a protective message, protective measure, because something so traumatic happened, and that's what happened. And then for one thing after another, to be thrown away for 3 years and abused in one of those horrible places, to come home just to be thrown in the juvenile hall. Devastating. And it's all your mother's fault. And your father. You can't beat kids and treat them like that and him not bear part of the responsibility, or a lot of the responsibility as well. And he's also another one, giving your mother 8 kids. Crazy. Absolutely crazy behavior. The woman does deserve to die alone. So the question you really need to ask is, you deserve it, you're validated, you have legal guardianship over your brother. You know, he suffered enough. Find out what he wants and make it happen. And if you still don't know, get back to me and we'll figure it out, because there seems to be a little bit more to this. You know, after everything he's been through and you've been through, and I'm sure the whole family's been through, but him especially. That just broke my heart to read. It really did. To be that young. Terrible. Terrible. But you're a good sister, and get back to me if you need any further assistance, because I want to make sure he's right and you're right. But thank you so much for your contribution, and thank you for the story. I really appreciate it, and it is heartbreaking, and I admire you helping your brother the way you are. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any advice or opinions in the comment section below. And again, remember, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, or a narcissist you'd like to expose, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email links in the description box. I'll get the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon. Bye.